glad that we can continue tonight our seminar in which we are going tonight to see the most, I hope, beautiful picture of the law of life. We remember that we have 4 unchangeable things: the law, the structure, the needs, and the function, and all together they should give us a solid foundation where we put our thoughts on and we know for sure that we are right. I tried last night to show the inner structure of man. We go once more through it so that we remember and not forget it. So we start with the cortex, and we know above it we have our spirit, and the spirit has a subconscious part, and that we call the heart. And we have the will in our conscious part, and then we need information from outside. We as humans do live by words. And those words we need to use like the stomach uses the food. Yes, the body uses the chemistry to get its nourishment, and the spirit gets its nourishment from information, from spiritual information. So here we have the word that comes first into the will, and then it goes down to our subconscious. And the first thing in the subconscious the information meets is identity. That's the question, who am I? And if that question is good answered, that's the truth, then I know that I trust, I must trust, and that's the answer, in whom do I trust? We can never do anything without first trusting. Every human action starts with trust. Then, of course, the next step is motivation. For whom do I do what I do? And we can never do anything for ourselves. We want to prove that tonight through the law that says you must take in order to give, which is the law of life, that governs not only our heart, but governs every single thing that exists on earth, and I believe also in the universe. Nothing does work differently than take in order to give, except God, who just gives because he does not need to take. We need to gain, that is everything we do, we need to accomplish the gain, and we need to say no to loss. And so we have 2 decisions, yes and no, what we do and what we not do. More we don't have. Now we look to the one man that was created, and we are all out of him. Even Eve was out of Adam. He was dependent on God to trust him in order to take his word and put that into application. Adam knew he is a created being. He knew, I am a created being. He knew that that is the truth, and so he was always in control of himself. His trust was only in God. He had no one to trust, because imagine he would have trusted Eve. He did that once, and that happened. It was a terrible thing. But if he would have never trusted Eve, but just have trusted God, we would not be in this misery where we are. Because you can only trust a higher person. You can only trust to someone you're dependent on. You should never trust anyone for anything, because it is dependency. Adam had God as his only source of information and orientation. He was dealing with the love of God. That was his motivation. He did all things for God's sake. He took in order to give. And so he fulfilled the law. He had only gain in his life. He had no loss. He could choose whatever he wanted from that garden and say yes and no. All his decisions were right, and he could avoid loss. Now, how did it come that Adam and Eve, knowing what is going on, fail and believed a lie, trusted someone that is not trustworthy. We remember that man was made out of two parts. He has a spirit and a body, and he must function according to the law that we will see today. That needs, he has to trust God, take from him love, truth, righteousness, freedom, security, peace, well-being, knowledge, happiness. All this he had to take from God and give it further on. By this he would do the right electrical current to his brain and to his body, give the power. At the same time, Adam had to eat and breathe, so he had to take from earth his chemistry. He took that and gave it also to use it as fulfilling his purpose of creation, and he would have reigned and lived eternal without any issues. But why and how could it come to the fall? God put a tree in the garden for the purpose that Adam should be not tempted over his abilities. And so if he would have never went to that tree to eat, he would have been always in safety. So Lucifer, as the serpent disguised, comes to Eve, and how much love can he offer to Eve? None. He knows that. So how will he ever get Eve to take something from him if he has none that Eve needs? Has he ever a chance? No. So he must offer her something that she needs and make like he has it for her. So Lucifer has no righteousness. He knows that Eve needs righteousness and all the other needs, so he offers unrighteousness as righteousness. That's what he did. He offers a lie for a truth. He offers a imprisonment for freedom. He offers uncertainty for security. He offers war for peace. Does he do that with success? We want to secure peace by war. Isn't that something that is reasonable? No. So he offers malaise for well-being. He offers ignorance for knowledge. Now Eve, we saw that in one of these nights, that women and cats have something in common. They are curious. And is it something bad to be curious? Who made Eve curious? God. So now, why did God not want her to satisfy her curiosity? Did God withhold something good from Eve or just some evil? So he withheld from Eve ignorance. Would you give to your child ignorance or rather knowledge? Knowledge. So he withheld from her ignorance, but here is the serpent that says, God withheld from you knowledge. I tried to put it sometime like this. What do you think? Were we made to fly first class or second class? I mean, business class or economy class? What would we made for? I hope that if you would have a choice while you go into the airplane, in which class you can sit. Oh, I would sit first class. It's even higher than business. It's pure luxury. All in leather. You know, you have like a living room for yourself. It doesn't cost much. It's just, I pay to come here for $1,050, but without knowing it, when I wanted to book the flight, I entered the page and they put me into first class. And when I took the flights, I saw suddenly 15,000 euro. That would have cost me the first class to come to New Zealand. But I took the cattle class, that is just 1,000 euro. But that's not our need. Our need is always first class. That's why they can sell first class. So expensive. And they sell it to only those that have the money to afford it. But if that would not be our need, we would never can sell first class. If second class would be our need, then economy would be expensive and first class would be cheap. You understand? So it's only what is first for us. Now, when God gave Adam and Eve their home, did he put them in first class or in second class? First class. He just wanted to spare them the second class. And now the serpent comes and says, hey, you're sitting in second class. Why not advancing into first class? Because God put you on purpose in the second class. You see, he's not very right to you. He's not dealing well with you because you were made for the first class, and look where he has put you. You need to come to a higher class. And Adam and Eve believed that they were not in the first class. That's why their need was to be in the first class. They were already in the first class, and when they ate, in which class did they come? They did not even come into economy class. They fell very deep. Eve became a liar to her husband. Would you like to have a wife that lies unto you? She just came to him and lied to him terribly. And Adam, poor guy, believed it. It's unreasonable that he believed it, but they both trusted the serpent. And in the moment you take from him, you become exactly what he promises to you. So since he's a liar, Eve became immediately a liar. And when Adam ate, he became immediately a liar. You remember that what he lied? He went, when God came and asked him, why did you eat? He said, Eve is the problem. Is that the truth? Did Eve force him to eat? No. Never. So, unfortunately, through this change in man, there was a change made, and now God wanted to spare them the death class. Now they entered the death class, and they reaped what they have sown. So now they take the word of Satan. They now think they're gods. They believe a lie for the truth. They trust in their self. They have humans as orientation. Pride and selfishness is their motivation. They work for the devil. They give in order to take, to receive. They have the law of death. They want to receive. And when they not receive, they are unhappy. All their decisions are wrong, and loss is not avoidable. So the problem with this change in human nature is that you don't see it. You see, you cannot grasp what is in you, except there is something that helps you to see it. And so I know that we saw this last night a little bit. There is a conflict between unreason and reason, madness and wisdom, foolishness and mindfulness. And the one is against the other. They are different kind of poles. The one is realistic thoughts and actions according to the laws of nature. The other is an unrealistic thoughts and actions that contradicts the law of nature. The one maintains life and the vital space nature. The other destroys life and the vital space nature. The one brings peace, patience, and health. The other brings stress, anxiety, conflicts, and disease. So we have only two poles on earth. We have the wise and the unwise. We have the reasonable one and the unreasonable one. And like I said last night, I never found anything reasonable that can make you sick. I only found unreason to make you sick. So where does come unreason and where does come reason? Unreason comes from the stupid idea that you are a higher being than that you are. And that's the evil. Evilness means you believe a lie of yourself and then you try the impossible. That must make you to understand that something is wrong with you. And if you would be clear who you are, then you would do the good. So it's for me important to define good and evil, and reason and unreason, wisdom and not wisdom. And read now, when you have time, Proverbs. There are only two poles in Proverbs: the fool and the wise. The woman that is wisdom and the woman that is foolishness. Solomon uses those pictures that are very nice to consider. The whole problem with identity is that it determines dependency. So if you're a creature of God or a God, then you have two differences. The one is spiritually and physically dependent, the other is not. So the main problem of humanity is that he thinks he is independent. He thinks that his spirit lives from himself. The one that knows he's a creature of God, trusts God and is dependent of God. That's how Adam was before. But now after, Adam has no need to trust to a higher being because he is the higher being. How can a man be convinced that he is deceived? You see, when you in your mind think you're right, can anyone help you to see that you're going wrong? I tell you, it's not possible. That's why I'm so glad for sickness. Disease is something that uncovers to man his self-deception. If it were not for disease, I could never help my patients to see that they play a game that is unreasonable. I couldn't do it because it would just be an ideology. But on the body, I saw that the human being deceives himself. So how can I convince my patient what's wrong and what's right? And I'm so happy that I have something that is unchangeable, and that is the law. You see, I once had a patient, she was a Christian, and she had an infection in her left ear. And that infection, she came to me and I saw it. And while she was waiting in my waiting room, she read my literature. And since I'm a Christian, I have literature Christian in my practice. And she got a paper there, what she read, and it said, "You have a lot of literature here with the law. Don't you know that the law is taken away on the cross?" And I said, "That's fantastic. If the law would have been taken away on the cross, your ear would not be infected. Because it's just the same law that you believe is taken away, is that what making you sick?" And that's fantastic. You have no theological arguments with no one if you know the law. It's all plain. You just need to show them in nature how it works. So she told me her story, why she got her left ear infected. Because I asked her what happened, so that I can prove to her that she breaks the law. And because she breaks the law, she has the problem. Now she was a Christian. She was 80 years old. And when she wanted to marry, she had a boyfriend who wanted by all means to marry her. But the boyfriend was not a Christian. And so she resisted to him for a while. But one day, being very decided to have her, she said to do a sign. And that was a dark November day. With us, November is a dark day because, and it was not snowing, it was raining. And she said, and amazingly, she put the same sign like her mother. The same day, they put a sign that said, if tomorrow there is no cloud on earth, I mean, it's all plain, it should be the sign of God that she should marry the guy. And guess what happened the next day? No cloud, it snowed overnight, everything beautiful. And she married the man. And the man came up to be an abusive, sexual abusive person who betrayed her all the time, who abused their 3 daughters. They have 3 daughters. And he was just, like she described it to me, a person you would not like to be married with. And so, since the man was from God, she stays with him. He finally, at the age of 50, converted to her Christian faith, and then he gave Bible study to the sisters from the church. And you know what he did with them in his Bible study? He died in the church on a heart attack while his enemy was preaching. It's a funny story, isn't it? And he was dead now for 20 years. She was alone. But she just heard, a few days before she got her ear problem, that one of her daughters came home and said to her, you know, Mom, he abused me as well. Can you love such a person? Can you? So he was deaf, but she got angry of him. And when you get angry on a person and you cannot love, you know it, who gets the problem? Because the law says you need to love the guy no matter what he did to you or to the children. Because the law doesn't know any excuses. As you need to breathe the air, no matter how your society is, you need to breathe love, you know? You have to take it and give it. So the law is my only means, together with the understanding, to show my patients that something in their life is wrong. Does this lady break the law because she wants to? No, you would all do it the same. You agree? Because when you hear such a news, you cannot discern and say, oh, the poor guy, you would immediately. Yes? When we got our children, and there were 2 girls in those 6 foster children that we got, I mean, they were all a family, parents separated and left them alone. And the youngest was 7 and the oldest was 17. And there were 2 girls, the 7 years old and the 11 years old. And I still remember when we took them and cared for them, I said that if anyone touches the girls, I kill him personally. God playing or not God playing? God playing, because you revenge yourself. That's not a humble person that knows you're a creature. So I have, and I understand that something wrong like that would bring us into a difficult situation. But still, the law doesn't know any excuses. If you put your hand in the fire, it will burn. No matter what your intention, if it's a good intention or not a good intention. So let us look to the law that is an expression of God. And it is this central law that governs the whole earth. We have here on earth an ecosystem. And every single thing, from the smallest atom to the most complex being, must follow this law that we saw on the beginning is the fundamental law of cause and effect. And cause and effect have a function, and that function is you must take in order to give. You know that this law can never be changed? Everything must take in order to give. There is nothing that can change this law. So, what is the first thing when you put a plant or a seed into the ground? What must the seed do first? Take or give? It is always taking is before giving. But why does it take the power from the earth? It's not survival. It's in order to make a fruit. And is that fruit coming one or multiplied? So because every time when you give, there is gain, there is multiplication. Because that's the law. The whole life of the plant is a taking in order to give. There is nothing even humans can do on earth that is for the purpose to take. Because who is the lawgiver? God is the lawgiver, and He is giving. Because He does not need to take. He is love, He is giving. That's why He made that everything should be the image of what He does, and that must be giving. No one can change that. We as humans, everything we do not create, we just put things together, are for one purpose, for to take or for to give. What's the purpose we do anything? Now you will see, why did we do iPads? To give or to take? Why do we make chairs? To give or to take? Are you with me? What do the chairs do? Do they give you something or they take something? They give. They let you sit on them. Yes? They hold you. Think on anything that is made not to give, and you will find none. There is no one purpose to take. Never possible. That's why the plant takes and makes the fruit. The man take the fruit and what do it with them? They give it further, a part to their body and a part to the bacteria. The bacteria take that and they transform it and give another part further that they give, and that takes the earth to give it back to the seed. So that's a very small. Farmer knows this circle, yes? Are there farmers here? They know the circle, how that goes. And so they use that. This is a law that can never be changed. And the law is always a circle. There is never an exchange of the same items in between things. The one thing always goes from one end to the other. So, there is only one exception on earth that is not in this law, and that is the spirit of man. He gives in order to receive. Do you see the striking difference of the deception of man? So, is this possible? Is it possible that you ever can give something before you took it? Is it possible or not? No. But the human being is convinced that when he gives something, he gives it from himself. So this is not possible, and I proved to you last night that the child is dependent on its mom. The child's spirit is as empty as its stomach. It must take in order to give. It has nothing in itself that can feed itself, where it can eat from. So let's look to the changed heart of man. The changed heart of man gives in order to receive. Do you have this kind of a heart in you? Yes or no? Yes. You always go for the receiving because you think you give it from yourself. You see, when people come to me and say, well, why not giving and receiving? Is that not possible? And I say the law does not permit it. You can either give for nothing or you can give to receive. It's not possible to give and receive. You must give or receive. So that's why this is an illusion. It's never possible that you can ever give anything from yourself. That's why the truth is you take first in order to give. But you don't see from where you take. So you don't see that you take from mother, from father, from spouse, from child, and so on. This is unknown to man. You don't see it because you believe you're independent. That is so hard to explain, the deception of the heart of man, because lie has no structure. Lie has nothing how to put it together. You can only uncover it by showing the truth to it. So man lives in a total unknowledge and self-deception. How can we prove that you take from someone? You see, when a person dies, I have atheists at my practice, and when some love sources they live from, they're dependent on, mother or father or spouse die, they get sick because they would like to resurrect. They would like to keep that life because they think they're dependent on that life. And I prove to them that they are dependent on the dead person. I once had a very interesting case of an elderly man. He got his left face with a trigeminous neuralgia, you call that like this, severe pain for 6 years, like electrical shocks. They come into your left side of your face from the fifth cranial nerve, and he went to all the doctors to help him, and they could not. So finally, they did surgery on him to see if there at the place where the nerve goes through the skull, if there is something that hinders him. So they did that surgery, it didn't help, and then he went to a certain specialist that gave him 3 very strong medications by which finally he could benumb somehow the pain. And he was very glad. For 2 months now, that pain was under control. But after 2 months, he got dizziness. And so he comes with the dizziness into my practice. And I know now that his nervous system is there because he is dependent on someone for love. He's a Catholic Christian, and so I explain to him, and I take his life story. His father and his mother died in between the last 12 years. I think 12 years the father and 6 years the mother. And he goes every Sunday after church to the cemetery. And he says, I go every day there and I speak to my parents and share with them what I did this week. And I tell them to say a good word for him to God. And then he goes home. He does that for this year since his parents are dead, every Sunday. Now, would you ever suspect that makes him sick? Yes? He goes there for what purpose? He goes to the cemetery to take from his dead parents. Can he take anything from them? No. He must dry out. And his nervous system as well. Because you don't go to the cemetery to give anything. Do you? Because if you go to give, you have no problem. But you go because you're dependent. Your life is dependent on your parents. And I challenged him because he was a Christian. I said, you go to the wrong place to take. If you would go and exchange your parents and would go to just take from God and give to your parents, you would heal and you would be free in your spirit. So I hope he changed that. Because you see, you remove the symptoms with pain, but then comes dizziness. And what is better? You know, we can never flee away from the laws of nature. They are as absolute as the one who made them. And it's only unreasonable to go against them. That's why I appeal to my patients always to reason. To not go with their driving in their subconsciousness. Because I show them in their heart they are not connected to the right source. And whenever your love source is gone, when your security is gone, you have finally to suffer and to die. But suffering is the result of taking love, of orienting yourself after things that you can never orient yourself except you are a child until 12 years old. So, let's look now to the law. This is our heart, our subconscious. And we have how many actions in the heart? Only 2 actions. We have the taking and the giving. What comes first? Take. And we must take in order to give. That's the law of life. And the interesting thing is when the Spirit gives, it goes into his body as a power to drive the body on or to take the body's power away. That's why on the body you can see what the Spirit takes, because what he takes, he must give. You can never give what you did not took. That's why I could observe that it's fantastic to see in the body of a man, you can see where he takes from, because this taking is invisible. But that what goes into the body, the giving, becomes visible. So that's very fantastic. That's beautiful to prove on something objective what happens in the Spirit in its subjectivity. So on the body I could see it. So the law of death means I give in order to receive. And I can tell you, and you can prove me in your life, every issue that the human has is here in this heart's action that is put opposite. Every human problem does come because you give in order to receive. I could not see one human problem that I could not put into the heart of man, because he gives in order to receive. So, we have in our consciousness our spiritual needs. And these spiritual needs need to be addressed and can be satisfied only through love relationships. That's why there exists only 2 motives or 2 reasons for a love relationship. You either love a person in order to take, or you love a person in order to give. You can never have any other motivation except to take or to give. There is no more. And I had this colleague of mine, she was not even 30 when her husband let her alone. She was married to him for 11 years. And she fell after he left her into a deep depression. And the people around her, even so she was a medical doctor, were thinking she would die because she was just devastated that the man left her. So why did she marry him? To take or to give? To take. So she was in a bondage relationship to him. And so when he left her, she was without love, without a person where she could take. So she came to my seminar. I talked to her, I counseled her. She understood the principle. She changed, and her depression went slowly away. But after 3 months, she calls me and says, something happened that I prayed should never happen. I met my husband in the city in a shop with his new girlfriend. And while he was passing me with her, she was passing here and his girlfriend was here, he says to his girlfriend, "This was my former wife." And in a moment she heard that, they were not even divorced, she fell into a deep crying. She couldn't stop crying anymore. And now she calls me and says, "I cannot stop crying." Why does she cry? The deception must be where? In her heart. And the deception is always between take and give. It can never be anywhere else. Because this is the deepest bottom of every being and even of the spirit of man. There is no deeper layer as take and give. And so I asked her, while you were married 11 years with your husband, how much love did you give him? What was her answer? How much love does a woman give to her husband? She doesn't give it unconditional. And I must say there is no unconditional love, because if love would be ever unconditional, there would be no law for it. So we must know that love is always conditional, but it is unselfish. You know, water, you could say, is there in order for you to drink it. But if you don't drink it, you are conditioned to die. That's why if you don't exercise love, you will die. The idea that love is unconditional is one of the devil's idea. Because he wants to rule out the law. Where there is no law, there is no condition. But disease proves that love is conditional. That is, you need to take it in order to give it. And if you don't do it, you die, as well as you don't breathe the oxygen that you need to take in order to give. So she gave all love, because women love like this. Now in my counseling, I speak more to women or more to men? Women, because women are more open. Men are strange beings sometimes because they are higher gods than women, yes? So they know all things. They don't go to the doctor only when they are death half, yes? The woman, on the other hand, runs with every little thing to the doctor, which is also not the right thing. But, however, she says, I gave him all love. And it says, how do you feel when you give all love? How do you feel? Happy. Everyone who gives feels good. It's only when you don't give you don't feel good. It's only then that you don't feel good. But as long as you give yourself, no matter to whom, you feel good. Because that's the law. And so she said, I gave all and I felt very good. I said, perfect. Nothing wrong. Now we need to know one definitive question. I said, how much love did you give from yourself to your husband? You know, when a woman loves, she gives herself, she gives her time, she gives her work, she cooks, she makes everything possible. Is that not nice that women are like this? They enjoy life because they're busy. And so it's nice. And so she gave all of that. And she felt well. But now, from where did she give that all? Did she give anything from herself or nothing from herself? Now you're challenged. What's the truth? When you live 11 years with a man and you love him and you do everything you know is right to do, and at the end you must recognize that you did give how much from yourself to him? Nothing. Are you not happy? I don't see you smiling. This lady says the truth. She said nothing because she was smart. He made a click when I asked her the question, how much did you give him from yourself? And in that moment she said, nothing. I said, then you can stop crying. And in that moment she stopped crying. Because you only cry because you lost something what you gave from yourself. You will never have any problems with any loss if it's not yours. Never ever. It's a loss, but it will never destroy you, except it is yours. That's why it's so important to know the law. The law shows that how much time do you have to give to a man? How much time? None. My patients come to me and say, oh, doctor, you take so much time, and it's your time, your precious time. I said, I have never time. I never had time. I only use time. And if I use it to your good, then it's fine. But it's not my time. You can never steal my time, can you? No one can do that, because I have none of it. So if you have a relationship that ends after 11 years, how much did you lose? Isn't that fantastic? Or if you have a relationship for 40 years and your husband now takes the younger one, how much have you lost? Nothing. You can just go on in life, enjoying life, without knowing that the other one, you didn't give him nothing, so he does not owe you anything. The things you give, you think you gave from yourself. You think he owes you faithfulness. He owes you to give it to you back. But he owes you nothing because you never gave him anything from yourself. Do you like the truth? I find it fantastic. Whenever I think about it, it makes me free. You see, no one can steal never anything from me if I'm convinced that I have nothing. Isn't that nice? I once gave my car to my son. And since my car is whose car? It's God's car, so I said, Lord, you can use it whenever I'm traveling on weekends. But there came one day after a few months that my mother-in-law was sick and she had to go to the doctor, and I asked him to bring my mom home after she saw the doctor. It would have taken him an hour and a half to bring her home and come back. But he said, you come in the last moment and I have no time, like young men are very busy always. And how did I felt immediately? You see, I thought I gave you the car all the time, and now that I have once a little bit of a need, not for me, but for my mother-in-law. You see, the thought that I was used by him immediately caught me. And I was in prison. And I said, Lord, I'm in prison. I'm not reacting correctly. I said, help me, what is wrong? And since I know the heart, he just goes direct. How much did you give the car from you? How much does your son owe you to bring your mother home or not? How much? Nothing. Oh, it was such a relief to know he owes me nothing. You will see that all problems come because you think people owe you something because you gave them something. You see, I never could take things from humans because I was practicing after my evil heart, because my evil heart says, if I take a gift from you, I must give you something back. Isn't it so? I could never accept the gifts until God taught me that if I don't accept, I am not polite to the people. And rejection is not good. When someone offers you something and you reject that, that person gets offended. And I read somewhere that Jesus took every gift that was given to him. I said, okay, if he did, I can do it also. And so I started to take. But everything a person gives me, from whom does he give it to me? From God. So how much do I owe the person to give her back? Isn't that freeing? So I take the gift. I thank you, God. I don't even need to thank the people, but I thank the people as well because I know their deception. But I thank God in my heart that I take that because it comes from God, and I have to take it in order to give it, so I have more business now. But it's good. So I take it, and I think, okay, where shall I place this so it should not stay too much with me? Yeah? So that you give it. But now I can take it because I say, no one gives anything to me from himself. Isn't that nice? Yes, I mean, I rejoice in the truth because it's the law that shows you that no one ever can give you anything from himself. And you can never give anything to anyone from yourself. But this must be written in our hearts. So, let's see. When the Spirit takes, he must exercise faith or trust. We saw that without trust, he cannot take anything. But since he's in dependency of his love relationships, he must take, and he takes always with trust. At the place he takes, he needs trust. At the place he gives, he needs no trust. Let's look at very simple. When we have here an apple tree, or whatever tree, how these green fruits are? A fijo tree takes for what purpose? To give, to make the fruits. Now, is a fijo tree dependent or independent? He's dependent in order to what? To give or to take? He's only dependent to take. When he takes, the giving comes as a result of it. Yes? So he takes from the earth and from the sun and from the air that he might produce the fruit. Now, can it be that you can take at the same place where you give, or you can give at the same place where you can take? So is it possible to have a mixed relationship? So to have one place where you also take and also give, or are the two places always different? So where the place where you take, let's see our lung, where do they take the oxygen from? They take it from the air. And they give the oxygen to whom? To the body. From the body they take what? Carbon dioxide. And they give it where? To the air. So you see, there is non-exchange of the same item. The one item that you take, at that place you take it, you can never give it. And at the place you give it, you can never take it. So this is fantastic in the law. So if we need a love source, it must be one that you cannot give anything at the place you take. At the place you take, you cannot give. It's excluded. And at the place you give, it's excluded to take. It's a little bit hard for us to understand this simple thing, but it's most revealing. So, you can have by this only relationships that cannot be in exchange. You take from one part and give to the other. So you have only pure relationships, or to take or to give. So making that clear, we will see how that works. Even though I was raised as a Seventh-day Adventist, it's only about 4 years ago I came to understand the beauty of the Ten Commandments. And you will see how fantastic it is. Now tell me, the Ten Commandments were written on 2 stones. Why on 2 stones? Because there are only 2 actions. It's the taking and the giving. And the one is exclusive, the other table is inclusive. That's why he could not write them on one table. You see, where you take and where you give are 2 different things. So the one governs the taking, the other governs the giving. Now let me ask you, if we cannot give where we take and we cannot take where we give, where is the battle in the human being? What is the only place you can break the law? In the giving or in the taking? Can you break them in both places or only in one? In the giving or in the taking? Now I put this question because it's very important. And some of you might know the story of the rich young ruler. He comes to Jesus and says, Jesus, I want to know what to do to have eternal life. And Jesus says to him, keep the commandments. Yes? And the rich young ruler asks, which of them? And which one did Jesus show them? The giving or the taking commandment? The giving, the 5 there commandments, we will see that in a minute. So they were there, and he gave them, he said, honor thy father and all these things. And what did the young ruler say? Oh, this I done all from my youth. Was it true or a lie? It was a lie, because he did not know where he broke the commandment. That's why Jesus says to him, how many things do you lack? 1 thing do you lack. Sell everything you have and what do? Give to the poor, and then come and follow me. But he said in between that you might have a heavenly treasure. You remember that you need a heavenly treasure to survive. To have eternal life, you need a treasure that is everlasting. And how do you get that treasure? By what? By giving. Now the rich young ruler thought that the law is a precepts, And if you would have asked him, did you ever steal? He would have said, no. If you ever break you killed someone? No. No, he would have enumerated you everything and would have said, I keep this. But Jesus knew exactly that he was a breaker of the law. And so he brings him to the practical aspect and says, give. Why did he not give it? Why did he not say, oh Jesus, how did I come earlier to this idea to just give all that I have, because that's the multiplication, that's when I'm happy, not when I keep all these things for myself. Why could he not give the things? Where did he break the law? Are you still with me? Is it too hard? Where did he break the law? In giving or in taking? So let us ask, where did he have his riches? From where did he have his riches? He thought from himself. So where did he break the commandment? You can only break the commandment in taking. If he would known that those riches are not his, but God's, and he would multiply them, he would got rich by giving them, he would just have thrown them all out. But he could not, because he was convinced they was his riches. Your riches you can never give. You see, for me it's very relaxing to know I have no money of my own. My wife spends the money of God. I'm still sometimes confused there, because sometimes I would like to stop certain things. But if God allows her, what shall I do? Have allow her as well. Because everyone can do with God's money whatever he wants. Except they are your money. You work for them, then you cannot give them. Can you? Every person can break the law only in taking. So our only problem is whom we trust to take. Because that matters. When you take correctly, you will always give correctly. Adam never had any danger to not give what he took from God as long as he trusted God. He could do whatever he wanted in his dependency on God. When he switched the taking, is there any precepts in the Ten Commandments, don't take the fruit from that tree? Is there anything like that? No, but did he break the exact 10 commandments? Did he break the law, the only law that is governing everything? Yes. Adam broke the law of dependency on God. Because he took from another place, because he trusted another person, except God. And the law cannot permit you to trust anyone else in order to take except God, because no one else is there where you cannot give anything. Because to fulfill the law, you must be unable at the place you take to give something. And there is only God above us where we cannot give anything. We can only go to Him for the purpose to take. Now, if you were God and you would like to enlighten the human beings in the problem that they have in the law, what would you write in the 10 Commandments? Where would you put the emphasis, on the taking or on the giving? There where the battle is, at the taking. Now, he wrote 10 commandments to just prove one single command. So, he gives 8 commandments that prohibit the wrong taking. You see the first commandment? No other gods. Why would you have another God? To take or to give? Why would you have and bow down in front of images? Why would you take God's name in vain? So there are 3 no and not. And at the end of the 5 commandments, from here do not take. And then comes the 6th commandment, not kill. Why would you kill? To take or to give? To take. Why would you commit adultery? I will stop here a little bit to share a little bit my testimony. I was grown up as a Christian, and since my first need is harmony, I always wanted, and I thought a happy family, a harmonious family would be the satisfaction of my life. My mother and father didn't get along well. I had a lot of diseases because I took from my mom what she did not have, and I was the most attached to my mother out of our 4 children. I'm a second-born child, and I got diseases from early childhood. And I remember when I was 8, I made plans to marry. And I always was looking after the girl that would satisfy my need. You know, you start early in life. And but mother will take care. and so I thought a woman must make me happy. Anything wrong, man, with that? Severely wrong. But no one taught it to me. I went to church, but no one told me women can never make you happy. Do you teach that here in New Zealand? So I went out there, and very early in life I got married. And of course I expected my wife to fulfill. Why did I marry her? To take or to give? Evidently to take. You know it. She was my source of harmony. But now you see there are more harmonious people and not less harmonious people. There are people who you have an imagination. And I'm a very, I would say so, slow person. I like. My dream was a woman that has a soft spirit, a quiet spirit, that just is doing her homework, is always happy, never has a problem, just content with life. And so, yeah, isn't that nice? Just a dream that you have. And so, when I married, I woke up because my wife is more a manager type. She's the type of woman that has the pants on, you know how to say that? and she's managing things, that and this, and all that she does fast. I hardly come after her. And so now I enter into a lack of harmony. And my wife, because I was dependent on her for harmony, could always manipulate me like she wanted. I was her slave. Now you laugh, but this is the truth. Because when she said, you need to wear a tie, I give just an example. And I said, no, I just go without a tie. She said, you have to wear a tie. And then I had to wear the tie in the end because she was so often telling it to me that just to get peace. That you laugh makes me that you understand the problem. Understand the problem because it's all of us, isn't it? But thank God, after 20 years, I wanted to get out of that slavery. So I wanted to divorce and find a woman that makes me happy. And I made the plan. We had these 6 foster children, and I wanted to keep them, but you cannot keep them when you are a single parent. So basically I was so at the end that I wanted to someone love me. I was such a poor guy. I just wanted to someone love me as I wanted it. My wife says she loves me, and she really loves me, but I always said to her, but not like I want it. So if someone loves you, not like you want, how much does it help you? Doesn't help you at all. The other can do all the service, and my wife is really serving, and she does all what she can do just to please me. But I'm not pleasable. Because I'm God on the throne, and I just want exactly that, what I imagine myself to want. And so I'm there, facing 20 years. I say, I'm a Christian, you cannot divorce. But I so got tired of the situation that I said, I'm now 39 years old, and I must become happy. And there must be a woman here on this earth that can accomplish the job. And you laugh, but that's how I was thinking. And so I thought I will succeed with it. But God knew my foolishness and my heart that betrays me, and He says, I get him. At the point before he jumps. So on the 26th of July, we all said, it will be over. I canceled the house, and the children should go back to their mother. I would go back to my mother. My wife should go back to her mother, and everyone starts again at his mother's place. And so we planned it. This was on 26th of June 2003. But we planned a trip to a family camp meeting to the States from Germany when I still had some hope, and that was at the end of May, beginning of June. And so we ended up to go to that place and meet those people who were having that camp meeting, and we were visiting the first weekend with them at their home. And on the 1st of June, they asked us for a counseling conversation. And of course I said, I'm sad, I don't want any counsel. But since I'm a weak person, I said, okay, maybe now and I stayed there at the talk. They talked about 3 hours, and they said to me, because my wife never wanted to let me go, because she loved me. So they keep us, yes. And so she wanted to have me, even though I'm not tasting well, I think so. So if your mind is always with another woman, you think someone else is better, it's not so easy for the woman, is it? So I'm there, and I'm very hard. I say, I won't return. This time I'm going to be strong. This time I'm not going to change, because and I had only 3 little things that I wanted from a woman, I thought. To understand me. Is that a good thing, that someone should understand you? You should when I ask you everything, you should always say no, because it's because do you know if someone understands you or not? Do you know that? Can you know ever if someone understands you, or can you never know it? Can you ever know that someone understands you? You can never know it. It's all an imagination. He can smile to you and say, oh yeah, yes, and his mind is off in Europe or somewhere, and you think, oh yes, he understands me, but he doesn't understand a bit. So let us be clear. We have the need for understanding, that we might understand others, but we never need to be understood. Except for business reasons. But that's not a personal thing. Yes, that's not a personal thing. But if you want personally to be understood, just because your need of understanding needs to be satisfied, then something is wrong. So what I wanted was not right, but I was deceived in my heart. Then I wanted someone to listen to me, because I like to talk. But women sometimes interrupt you, and they start to talk. And then it's hard to go into, yes? And so whatever tactic of communication is there, you fail because you want someone to listen to you. And then I had one very ordinary, extraordinary wish, and that was, I want a wife, when she opens up in the morning her eyes, she should smile. Isn't that fantastic? Just the sun rises when you look into the face of your wife, and the day is fine. Is that dependency or independency? It's a very strong dependency. See, I was the most funniest doctor everywhere because I always made people to laugh, because I lived from their laughing, from their smiles, because I feel good when people smile, because I take from them. So I stood very firm that conversation, but after the conversation, going down to take my tennis shoes, there came a thought to me, and that thought said like this: if you are going to keep my commandments, I will take care of your needs. That's a Bible verse in Isaiah 48:18. It says, if you are going to keep my commandments, your peace will be like a river, and your happiness, that's the Romanian translation, will be like the waves of the sea. Can there be more happiness? What do we have on earth more, water or earth? Water. So if you have all happiness like the seas of the water, yes, then that would be nice. So that thought really was giving me, when I thought it, a very good feeling. I said, oh, my needs can be fulfilled. But then I was looking to the condition, which says, keep my commandments. And all I understood back then was, no adultery. But I made it up before with the Lord, because I always wanted to serve the Lord. I said, Lord, you know that I want to serve you, but I have to do this detour. Because I need to be happy. And I know there are so many in the church, they have done the same detour, and you forgave them, and they are now happy. So let me do it also. Because I will come back. I never wanted to not serve the Lord. I ever wanted to serve Him, but please, I want to be happy as well. And so I made that up, and then I saw that the condition was to stay with my wife and with the family. So I left it, and after 1 week, you see, the Lord, when you put you in front of decision, He helps you a little bit from behind. So 1 week later, I have to take the decision. And we are in the same situation where we are 10 people together, this family with their 3 children, we with our 3, 14, 16, and 18 years old. And the gentleman is sitting in the left for me, and he suddenly asks me, are you committed to stay with your family? And when he said the word, are you committed, I thought that he means that I want to leave, because I always was committed to leave. So when he said, are you committed, I already said yes. Because I knew what he would ask me. So my yes and the end of his question fell together. And so everyone was listening and said, wow, he changed. And in that moment, I had to do something. Because you cannot walk out that room and say, children, it was just a mistake. Because they were there. You cannot game with those kind of things. It was just a mistake. I needed to immediately take that yes back and say, oh, no, wait, I answered wrongly. But something gave me the choice in that moment to think, what shall I do? To jump after the yes or to go against it? And what happened in my heart, I don't know. What was the decisive thought? But I jumped after the yes. And in the moment I jumped after the yes in my heart, something dramatic in my life changed. In 1 millisecond, in that moment, I got a peace that never left me since then. I was so thirsty for love. That thirst was just satisfied. I was 20 years addicted to the movies, to the internet, to there where the men go. I could never abstain. I was fearful because I was also working as a Bible worker in the church. I was youth leader. I was active in the church because I always want to serve the Lord. But what I was addicted to, the internet. And I could not stop it, even though I wept to God. I prayed. I said, Lord, I won't do this again. And I promised. And what happened a few days later? When the lust came, the mouse went by itself into the internet. You could not stop it. I had no control, and I wept. I never let go on God, but I had no power to overcome. But in the moment, I said yes on this Sabbath afternoon, the 7th June 2003. In that moment, I said that yes. Every addiction was gone, without any fight against it since then. Amen. Never ever again the addiction came. I was always looking after a woman because I said I have to find some that is exactly what I need. You know what had happened after my conversion? I realized I don't need that to do anymore. I said, Lord, what did you do with me? I'm just free. That one decision, I see it, I took from God again. In a moment, I took from God. He could enter my heart. But for 20 years, He could not show this to me because He knew I would not understand it. He knew the day would come when I would know that I am breaking the law by wanting something for my good from a human being on a spiritual level. And since then, since the 7th June 2003, having that dramatic experience that really changed my life in a second, and it did not only mine, the whole atmosphere in the family was like heaven was with us. We were a family of people that always did something. I was never resting. And if you have boys, 14 and 16 and 18, you have something to do with them, have you? And I was always fun. But we were there the next Sunday. And there, no one had any lust to go to the parks to, you do this Six Flags Magic Mountain Parks or whatever in America you have, this just fun parks, movies without end. No one had anything that wanted to do that anymore. It was just an atmosphere of heaven that came into our lives because of a small decision to not take any more from a human. So here it is what we must learn. If you commit adultery, you don't do it because you want to give. You do it because you want to take. Why would you steal? That's obvious. Why would you lie? Why would you covet? Why would you do that? It's always to take. That's why out of 10 commandments, 8 are prohibiting the taking. That's how the commandments need to be understood. And there is only one commandment that says to take. You know that? Which one is it? It's the fourth commandment. It's the only commandment in the 10 commandments that matters. There is no other in the 10 commandments than the fourth commandment that says, here you take, because this commandment says you are a creature of God and you're dependent on God alone. Now, God is the only person you can ever give anything. Can you? Why do you pray? To give or to take? Yes, but we don't do it to take. We give in order to receive. That means God owes us a response because we gave Him something. How much does God owe you? Nothing. No matter what you do, you can keep all the precepts of the law, you can be most faithful, and your child will be maybe, happens something, a car goes over it. Will you be angry on God for that? Will you? No. So, make it clear. It's so important. We can only take from God. But let us know we don't go to God to give Him anything. That Christians give Him in order to receive what? Eternal life. That is what the Bible calls salvation by works. When you want to receive something, when you do something in order to receive, then that's salvation by work. Because in the law, you take in order to give, and salvation is in that, what you do, not in what you receive. So, why do Christians go to God? They want to receive. Why do you pray? To take or to give? Well, if you pray to God to take, then it's simple, because God says, I am the water. How much do you give the water when you drink it? Do you give Him something? No. How much do you give the bread when you eat it? Nothing. You see, God says, I'm the bread, I'm the water. He makes very clear, whatever you do, you can never give me anything. Everything you take from me. I am the bread and the water of life. So, there was a young lady once that says, and she was at a conference, and then she had a time where she prayed to God, but after a month, she started not to pray anymore, to have no devotions anymore, and she said, I lost that connection. I said, I know why. Do you know I know why people do not pray? There is a very simple answer. They stop praying because they pray for themselves. If you pray for yourself, you pray for nothing. You only pray in order to have something to give. That's why you go to God, to take something, to learn something, to give. If you have a job, like God gave me my job, you cannot afford not to pray. You can never let go, because you know you have how much to give. Nothing. And you need every morning a fresh supply of food, of spiritual food. But you don't do your devotion for, like just fulfilling a duty. You do it very precisely. Today you meet a person, and very often what I read in the morning, that verse is exactly for some of my patients or for many patients to give it to them. So you take in order to give. When you have a job from God, then you pray not for you. Then your salvation is yourself not important, because it's selfish. We want to be saved for whose purpose? For God's sake do we want to be saved, yes. That's love. We don't want to be saved for ourselves. But that's a far way to go, is it? Then we won't focus on ourselves anymore, because then we will be like Paul, who give everything for one thing, to achieve by giving. So the one law is the fourth commandment. That's why it is the decisive commandment in the end time. It's that one fruit, that one tree in the garden, that one law, that if that is kept, not like some do it, then you are proving you take from God. And then there is one commandment that proves where you take from, and that's honor your father and your mother. That's the giving command. You know you can never honor your father and your mother as long as you need them, because you give and take at the same place. That's not possible. You only honor your parents when you give or when you take fully from God. Then you honor your parents. As long as you need your parents for yourself, for your spirit, then you cannot honor them. And I can give you many examples. This is the hardest command to keep because it proves from where you take. Because if you can love and honor your parents, you can love and honor any human being. Because it's the most hardest person, the most hardest people to honor your parents, because you're dependent on them by birth, and then you need to become independent so that you can honor them and keep and fulfill the commandment. So there must be only pure relationships, one where you take and the others just for to give. Now tell me, how many pure relationships do you have? Are you a breaker of the law or not? How many are here a breaker of the law? I tell you, we are all. Because we have not understood that we must take only from God and give to humans only. We must have only free relationships among each other, independent spiritually from each other. That's how God meant it to be. And how much problems would we then have in our marriages, in our relationships? How much? 0 problems, because the law of life would be in our lives. So I'm finishing here, and we will continue tomorrow night. And I hope you understood one message. There is only one thing in life counts. From where you take, that you give. And if Christians would take from God, how would they be? Lovely persons, righteous persons. They would say the truth. They would be unselfish persons. They won't live a second for themselves because they would just reveal the source where they take from. But if we do not reveal God in our life, then it is because we do not take from Him. Because we take from each other something that cannot feed our spirit and cannot make us happy. That's why everyone becomes like his love source. Everyone will be exactly like the person he takes from. If it's mother, you become like mother. Even if you hate mother, you will become exactly like her. Because you take from there. So the law is very simple. We have one problem. We trust the wrong person because we think we are independent while we must trust. But we trust a human or an animal instead of God. That's the problem of the law. And we'll speak tomorrow night about love. What is that love that only God has and all of us must exercise, that our bodies and our spirits might be happy and healthy without breaking, without doing anything wrong in our bodies. And I'm excited tomorrow because it is a nice message, because I speak about the definition of love. And I could speak hours about love because I like love. And it's all that our need is. And tomorrow night we will finish with the nicest message of love that we all need to take and give.